5 ranked team in the country.
Who's the biggest Buff fan here?
Me!
Hello and welcome to a very special Halloween edition of Sko Buffs Sports. I am Harrison Simeon.
And I'm Patrick Dawson. And we have a very spooky show for you guys today. Despite the bye week from football, there's still plenty to talk about from the last 7 days and an action-packed slate of sports ahead of us.
Let's get right on into it.
Over the weekend, the Colorado Buffaloes men's basketball team beat the Texas Longhorns in a close scrimmage by a score of 87-78. The Buffs, who will be unranked heading into the season, received high praise from Texas head coach Rodney Terry, saying, they're going to be a top 25 team, one of the best teams on the West Coast. And for the better part of that scrimmage, you were talking about two teams that look like they're already in midseason form. With the Buffs' first game of the season just over 1 week away, I guess you could say I am as excited as Frankenstein's monster breaking free from the lab.
The men's basketball team is set to face off in an exhibition match against the MSU Denver Roadrunners at home at 7 p.m. this Saturday. In the Buffs' first public showing against an opponent, Colorado fans will get to see their first glimpse of the black and gold group that is expected to compete for a Pac-12 title. This will be the first college action for highly touted freshman Cody Williams and the rest of the star-studded recruiting class. So don't miss this scary Buff squad on Saturday night.
The CU women's basketball team is looking to have a spectacular season this year, with lots of hype revolving around the returning core of players such as Jalen Sherrod and Quay Miller from the Sweet 16 performance a year ago. The Buffs will be hosting the Adams State Grizzlies tomorrow in an exhibition game, and that'll begin at 1 p.m. Mountain Time at the CU Event Center. This game should give an excellent preview of the talent and coaching that we can expect from the Buffs this year.
Oliver and I were joined by SBS alumni and current writers for CU Sports Report, Troy Finnegan and Nikki Edwards, this past Wednesday in Episode 7 of the Sko Buffs Sportscast. Among all the football talk, we had some cogent analysis from Nikki right here over the basketball teams. Take a look.
That's all the thoughts we have on UCLA. I would love to jump into both men's and women's basketball with their exhibition games coming this Saturday, Media Day last Tuesday.
During the Buffs football game, shout out schedulers. Terrible job.
Oh my god.
But yeah, so I don't know. Where do we want to start?
Tristan Silva's going to be a freaking dog this year. I'm so excited to watch him. They needed him to be successful this year. Like he was their best shooter last year. KJ Simpson, of course, was there. He was there last year. He's going to be there this year. But they needed Tristan Silva to really solidify themselves as like a actual potential Pac-12 championship contender. They needed that offense. They needed that defense. They needed that solidified veteran experience to really carry them throughout the season. He's so locked in. He's so confident, and he's just going to be great to watch. I think this unit that they have a lot of depth and versatility. We got to watch Eddie Lampkin more and see how he integrates himself. He's dealing with his back issue, and I hope that doesn't trickle in because back stuff can be really tricky.
Especially for those big guys.
Yeah. So hopefully that gets all healed up and healthy and can really find his footing here and be that dominant 20-point, 14 rebound player that he showed during the NCAA tournament a couple years back, because he has that within him, and they just needed that size. And there's so many good pieces here with what Julian Hammond showed last year, Luke's rebounding, and just getting Javon Hadley back. Health, of course, is the most fragile thing in basketball, and I think we saw it firsthand. I think it was one thing dealing with their inconsistencies and grappling with these great wins of Tennessee and then losing to Grambling State. Those hurt Tad. The Tennessee one was amazing. It's just there's so many memorable moments throughout last season where you're this team can be really, really awesome, and then you saw games like the Cal game where it's they're so close. Basketball's a fragile sport, but I think they have all the pieces necessary to really get back to a consistent offense, a consistent defense, and just be, one of those great contenders. Just remember Jaime Jaquez at UCLA. I don't really know what Arizona's looking like this year, but I think they're at least able to beat out Oregon in the standings this year.
I believe in.
You can check out the full episode on our YouTube channel. And now, it's time to unveil our Play of the Week candidates. We asked you on our Twitter which of these 4 plays was the very best. With no football on the agenda, this was the perfect opportunity to highlight some of our less talked about sports. Was it this save by Jordan Knights in traffic during the soccer team's 1-1 draw with Washington last weekend? That one was really tough. And now we move on to this diving save from Morgan Riddle to set up a block and a point from the volleyball team's big upset win over Arizona State? Or was it this slice kill from Kayla Payne, the volleyball team's big win over Arizona? Wait, this is the Arizona State play. That's my bad.
I was there for that one. That one was awesome.
Or was it this huge hit from Fred Farreau, who decked this poor Central Oklahoma Bronco into the bench last weekend? Lord, get him some milk. The answer will be revealed later on in the show.
The Colorado Buffaloes returned to action after their very spooky outing versus the Stanford Cardinal a few weeks ago. Hopefully the Buffs never have to walk a boulevard of broken dreams quite like that one ever again. This Saturday, they take on the UCLA Bruins at 5:30 p.m. Mountain Time on the road at the Rose Bowl. Shedeur Sanders is currently sitting at 5th for the most passing yards in all of FBS this season, still ahead of projected top 5 NFL draft picks Caleb Williams and Drake May. However, penalties have been the biggest killer of the Buffs' early season success. The Buffs lose a third worst 80 yards per game in penalty yardage as they struggle with discipline and even substitution errors that cause 12 men on the field penalties. Discipline has been one of the keys that Coach Prime has really tried to hammer down all season, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't seem to be clicking this far. In terms of odds, the Bruins are 16.5-point favorites over the Buffs according to CBS, so it will likely take a much improved Buffs team to keep this game within one score. We're hoping for a much cleaner and smoother game than the Buffs have been able to put out in the past as they look to upset the Bruins and LA.
Pac-12 after dark is certainly something that many people love to enjoy. However, Coach Prime Deion Sanders is not one of those people. When asked about 8 p.m. kickoff times a few weeks ago, Prime said that it's, quote, the dumbest thing ever. CU will have to deal with that once again as kickoff for the Oregon State game on November 4th is set for 8 p.m. on ESPN. The 8 p.m. Mountain Time kickoff from Folsom Field is certainly not something new to the Buffs, as just this year, have had multiple games in that slot, most notably the Colorado State matchup, which lasted well into Sunday morning. The Buffs move on to the Big 12 next year, partially with the hope that this move will include many more valuable hours of sleep.
And now it's time for our favorite time of the week. This year has featured Colorado on network television more than ever. This week against UCLA will be the 5th time on national TV, beating their previous record of 4, which they were featured 4 times on national TV. Now, our trivia question for this week is which year was that? To help you guys out, we're giving you 4 answers to choose from, either 1990, 2016, 1994, or 1989. The answer will be revealed later on in the show. Now, here's Corey Neumeier with this year's edition of Buff Banter.
What's up, Buffs fans? I'm Corey Neumeier, ready to give you this week's edition of Buff Banter. To start, I want to ask you a question. Do you believe? For the majority of people in the country, that answer is no. Today's topic is that lack of belief. The Buffs have been underdogs ever since we hired Coach Prime, with many outlets, who shall remain nameless, claiming that Deion was not a serious head coach who could lead an FBS school to success. In fact, our preseason projections from sportsbooks were 3, count them, 3 wins on the year. We got to that total in the first 3 games and surpassed it in just 6, costing a lot of bettors who put down serious cash betting against us. The Buffs opened their season versus the ranked TCU Horned Frogs, who were national titles runner-ups. Sports Illustrated reported a predicted score for that game of 41-15 with a 91.8% chance to win. Does anyone remember how that game went? The Buffs came out and punched the college football world in the mouth with a 45-42 victory over the Horned Frogs to establish themselves as a legitimate FBS team. That win over TCU got the college football world intrigued. CU actually went into the Nebraska game as favorites. It was only 2.5 points, showing that once again, the college football world just does not want to believe. The Buffs won that game by an entire 22 points with a score of 36-14 and going even further to establish their foothold as a competitive team, something that could not be said about recent CU football teams. After a comeback victory over CSU and a blowout loss to Oregon, the Buffs fell out of favor with bettors and even lost their spot in the AP Top 25 rankings. They went into the USC matchup in familiar territory, big-time underdogs, as Sports Illustrated once again projected a blowout. They projected the Trojans to win with a score of 46-19 and gave them a 90% chance to win. And for a while, it looked like they were right. The Buffs went down by a 27-point deficit at 3 different points in the game. However, they came up big in the second half as they held USC's offense to only 14 second-half points, including a fourth-quarter shutout, after giving up 34 points in the first half alone. The offense started to roll, and they brought it to a one-score game before running out of time after their scoring on the final offensive drive due to mismanaged timeouts and clock mismanagement in general throughout the second half. Coach Prime expressed his full beliefs that the Buffs would have driven down the field and scored the ball had they not run out of time and gotten possession again. Colorado now returns to underdog territory as they prepare to face UCLA tomorrow. As we were projected to lose by 15 points, CBS reports that UCLA has a major talent advantage, but one reason that I fully believe CU can never be counted out is that we have something no one else has, Coach Deion Sanders. Back to you guys at the desk.
The Buffs' favorite celebrity couple, Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, were courtside at the Nuggets season opener for Bleacher Report on Tuesday. Coach Prime joined the quarterback-receiver duo as well. Likening themselves to dynamic duos such as LeBron James and Dwayne Wade on the Miami Heat, the boys sat sideline to support someone, we're not exactly sure. The Buffs secured the win 119-107, but Travis secured a care package from LeBron James, complete with shoes, jersey, and all. The Prime effect was in full swing on Tuesday, with Coach Prime, of course, making an appearance as well, giving Travis an opportunity to practice his, we'll just call it, shot creation. The energy is clearly high coming into the week, and hopefully the courtside hiatus keeps Hunter and Sanders hot against UCLA tomorrow.
That perfectly transitions us into our social media post of the week, courtesy of Bleacher Report. With Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders suffering a hilarious case of being starstruck by NBA legend LeBron James, LeBron may have not made his rumored appearance at the USC game, but he experienced his support for the CU Superstars and generated this perfect reaction from Travis. Let's take a look.
Staying on the NBA topic, the 2023 season tipped off this past Tuesday, beginning with the hometown Denver Nuggets raising their first finals banner. On Wednesday, however, all 4 Colorado Buffaloes and alumni currently on NBA rosters played on the same night. The longest tenured player of the 4, shooting guard Alec Burks, was drafted all the way back in 2011 and has played for 6 NBA teams in that span before ending up with the Pistons just last year. Drafted a couple years after him in 2014, Spencer Dinwiddie will have his first full season back on the Brooklyn Nets since being traded there this past February. The guard made the Nets starting lineup where he'll play in a guard tandem at the 2 alongside Ben Simmons. Dinwiddie had the best stat line of the 4 Buffaloes that played this last year, averaging 17 points and 9 assists per game. Meanwhile, forward Jabari Walker, the youngest Buffalo alum playing in the NBA this year, will head into his sophomore season in the league since being drafted by the Portland Trail Blazers in 2022. Walker will be a depth piece in the Blazers' front court in what will be a very unique year for Portland since the departure of Damian Lillard. With the Trailblazers looking for young players to fill the star point guard's absence, the door is wide open for the former Buff to solidify himself in the Blazer rebuild. The most exciting former Colorado Buffalo to watch this year, however, is undoubtedly Derek White, the starting shooting guard for the Boston Celtics. The hometown kid from Parker, Colorado, shined in his senior year as a Buffalo after transferring from UC Colorado Springs. Among his Pac-12 achievements in just 1 year in the conference, White made the All Pac-12 first team in 2017, earning him a first-round draft pick by the San Antonio Spurs the same year. Just last year, he made the All-Defensive second team and had arguably the most memorable moment of the entire NBA playoffs with his put-back buzzer beater in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Miami Heat. Now in his third year in Boston, White will be a crucial asset for the Celtics, who many sports sites have as the favorites to win this year's NBA championship.
Sko Buffs!
Colorado Buffaloes volleyball team has rebounded from a tough weekend in Washington last weekend with an outstanding weekend back home versus the Arizona schools. The Buffaloes kicked off the weekend with a Friday night matchup versus the Arizona Wildcats, where the Buffs would go on and dominate and win the match in 3 sets. Lexi Hadrich would kick off an outstanding weekend with 16 kills on the night, in which was a much-needed rebound from that haunting Washington weekend where the Buffs did not win a single set. Sunday afternoon, the Buffs stayed in town to take on the ranked Arizona State Sun Devils at number 17. And who better to kick off that matchup than our boy right here, Patrick Dawson.
What's up, Buffs fans? Patrick Dawson reporting for Sko Buffs Sports from the CU Events Center. The Colorado Buffaloes volleyball team just took on the Arizona State Sun Devils, who are ranked 17th in the country. The Buffs came out strong. They followed the momentum from their win versus Arizona by taking a 10-2 lead versus the Sun Devils in the first set. It did tighten up and momentum did swing in favor of the Sun Devils throughout that set, but the Buffs did close it out and eventually took that on to sweep the Sun Devils, what was completely unexpected. After a rough road trip in Washington, 2 consecutive sweeps versus the Arizona teams was not something that anyone would have imagined, especially versus the Sun Devils, who, as I mentioned, are ranked 17th in the nation. Lexi Hadrich has had an incredible weekend for the team. I believe it was 16 kills today and 17 kills on Friday night. She's been doing incredible. Sky Howard, as always, making highlight plays at the net. Some amazing blocks that just get the crowd absolutely going. The Buffs are hoping to take on this momentum to continue their success into the second half of Pac-12 play and hopefully have more success that they feel that they deserve. Once again, Patrick Dawson reporting for Sko Buffs Sports from the CU Events Center. The CU soccer team had a week of up and down results. They capped off a trip in Washington with a 1-1 tie on Sunday against the Huskies, following a 1-0 loss versus Washington State this past Friday. Freshman defender Ava Priest scored the only goal of the night for the Buffs on a penalty kick, which was her second goal of the year. However, the Buffs could not hold on to that lead as Washington was able to answer, and the match ended in a stalemate. After that, the Buffs came home from 3 consecutive games on the road to face off against the Arizona Wildcats back at Prentup last night. The Buffs won 2-0 on a really chilly night, and head coach Danny Sanchez called it one of the better performances this year by the Buffs. Shara James and Faith Liba accounted for the Buffs' goals last night, and goalkeeper Jordan Knights had her 7th shutout of the season, continuing her dominant sophomore season in black and gold. This one snapped a 5-match winless streak with 2 losses and 3 ties, as they hope to get back on track to the amazing season they initially looked to be in for. The Buffs take on the Arizona State Sun Devils, who are nationally ranked 18th, for their final home game of the season this Sunday at noon Mountain Time at Prentup Field.
The Colorado Buffaloes cross-country team had a good showing at the final rounds of the Pac-12 cross-country championships. It was windy and cold, as you can tell, it's been a theme here, at Washington for the event, but that did not faze the men's team. Stanford ultimately came out on top, as the Buffs were never really able to get in the run, no pun intended, for the top spot in the race. Colorado men's team would ultimately finish in 4th in the championship. However, the good showing today was not enough to overtake Washington and Oregon. The women's team, however, placed 3rd in their championship, just barely finishing in front of Oregon. The Buffs are now preparing to take on the NCAA Mountain Regional Championship in Lubbock, Texas on November 10th.
The tennis team wraps up their play at the ITA Regional Championship in Salt Lake City, Utah this past weekend. And although there were no longer any Buffs in contention for the championship of the tournament, they were still able to use the tournament as an opportunity for general improvement. The team won a combined 6 and 7 in extra singles and doubles matches on Saturday and returned to action on November 3rd for the San Diego State Invitational.
The women's golf team finished 18th overall this past weekend at the Stanford Intercollegiate. With just one player placing in the top 50 individually, it wasn't the most successful week for the Buffs, finishing collectively 40 over par. Starting strong but falling off towards the end, Coach Ann Kelly says that this is an area the Buffs need to continue to improve on. The women's golf team will return for their final game in the fall season next week in Miami.
Speaking of Ann Kelly, head coach for the women's golf team Ann Kelly is set to retire after 27 seasons at CU. Kelly will retire after this season as the longest tenured female head coach in the history of Colorado athletics, ranking 7th overall. In Kelly's time at CU, she has led the Buffs to 8 NCAA regional appearances and 2 NCAA championship events, in addition to coaching 24 All-American scholars. Kelly will be dearly missed, as former students and athletic director Rick George commented on her retirement, expressing their gratitude. In a quote from George to CU Athletics, the AD thanked Kelly for building the program up from the ground, and that he looks forward to the rest of the season with Coach Kelly. Current associate head coach, Coach Madeline Shields, will take over in the 2024 to 2025 season as head coach. We look forward to seeing what Shields brings to the women's golfers next season.
Who's the biggest Buff fan here?
Me! That guy.
Sko Buffs.
Go Buffs, baby! We're all about the Buffs! Sko Buffs! They can't contain us. We're the best. We can't be stopped. Sko Buffs! Sko Buffs! Sko Buffs!
The men's D1 hockey team was in town this past weekend. They took on the number 5 ranked Central Oklahoma Broncos. UCO came into the series undefeated, and they showed why. They put on an offensive onslaught and beat the Buffalo 7-1 and 8-2 in their 2 matchups. The D1 Buffs will get some time off and prepare for their series on November 10th at Utah, which we all hope they fare much better in. The D2 men's hockey team is taking a note from the football team's playbook and is playing in LA this weekend. They started yesterday versus Cal State Northridge, but then they got spooked by the Matadors and lost that contest 5-3. They will play UCLA today and close out the trip tomorrow versus Loyola Marymount.
Get ready, Buffs fans, because the women's hockey team is playing at the Rec Center right after the show at 5 p.m. in the Rec Center. Come out and cheer on your Buffs as they try to shake off a losing skid and scare off Arizona State, the reigning WWCHL champions. They'll play the Sun Devils once again tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Mountain Time after their contest tonight. And then the Buffs will host the Denver Pioneers at 5 p.m. on Saturday as well, a good old-fashioned doubleheader. You can find all of these live streams right here on our YouTube channel.
Perhaps the most frightening results of the weekend took place on Saturday when the CU Club baseball team lost both games in a Fort Collins doubleheader against Colorado State Rams. The first game ended 7-1, but the second was a bit tighter as it went to extras, but the Buffs unfortunately fell short 6-5. The Black and Gold wrap up their fall season tomorrow and Sunday in Golden against the Colorado School of Mines. And while the World Series may start today, take these results with just a little grain of salt, as these fall ball games are just tune-ups for the spring leg of their schedule, which starts this March.
And now it's time to reveal our Play of the Week winner. Drum roll, please. Receiving a dominating 58% of the vote is Fred Farreau. This massive hit off a face-off in the D1 men's hockey clash with Central Oklahoma last weekend may not have made the difference, but it was still great to see such a physical presence on the ice. Now let's send it over to our very own Oliver Hayes for this week's edition of Rapid Fire.
Hey, it's Oliver Hayes back with another edition of Rapid Fire. We have a packed weekend of spooky sports, so let's get to it. Starting in Boulder on the northwest side of campus, the women's hockey team starts off the weekend with a 5 p.m. matchup tonight and a 9 a.m. meeting tomorrow morning against the ASU Sun Devils. The Buffs will play the Denver Pioneers at the Rec Center tomorrow at 5 p.m. Go a little north, and you can catch the men's rugby squad playing Air Force tomorrow at 1 p.m. On the east side of the map, the women's soccer team also plays Sunday, facing off against the number 18 ASU Sun Devils at noon at Printup Field. It might be a little cold, so we'll head south for the most popular place on campus. Starting tonight, the volleyball team plays the USC Trojans at the CU Event Center. The action starts again tomorrow at 1 p.m., but you'll have a tough decision to make. Do you walk over and catch the women's rugby team play Air Force on the business field, or do you stay at the Event Center to see the highly anticipated women's basketball team tip off against Adams State? I know which one I'm choosing. The men's basketball team then plays at Saturday evening at 7 p.m., and the volleyball team will take on the UCLA Bruins in a spooky Sunday matchup. Wear your best costume, and you can win a surprise. Now that we covered what's at home, the cross-country team headed to Tacoma, Washington for Champions Week, which is the last Pac-12 meeting of the year. Coach Prime and the Buffaloes flew to Los Angeles for their Saturday 5:30 p.m. kickoff against the number 23 UCLA Bruins, and the baseball team went to Golden to play the School of Mines Ore Diggers on Saturday and Sunday. Man, wow, that was fast. That's all for Rapid Fire. My name is Oliver Hayes, and back to you guys at the desk.
Now it's time for the moment you've all been waiting for, the answer to this week's trivia question. Earlier in the show, we asked you which previous year were the Buffs football team featured on national television 4 times? And the answer is, drum roll please, 1990. That year, after coming up short in the national championship against the Irish, the Buffs were on national TV 4 times and eventually went on to get their revenge against the Irish the very next year.
Well, that's all about we have to show you today. Patrick, what are you doing for this year's Halloween?
I'm going to go home, play guitar, make some new music, stuff like that. What about you?
I think I'm going to just played some 2K and watched the Nuggets.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, that's just about all we have today for Sko Buffs Sports. I wish you a very, very happy Halloween. And remember, you heard it here first.